We then begin to present, in the next screen, you'll see that we have a list of information about the particular property. The first column is called public facts. This is the information that we gather from tax assessment data and deed recordings. The second column is listing facts. This is the information from the actual listing record. And the third column is a bunch of blanks. Because the whole idea behind the RPR is to give tools to the agent. And this is the first opportunity you'll see where we have an opportunity to give the agent a way to begin to collect information or record information that they may be collecting during their market evaluation and investigation on this particular property. For example, you know those listing facts are always right. The assessment facts are never right. And so if you're preparing to show a property or trying to get a handle on a neighborhood that you might want to market, when you look at this information, it's incredibly valuable, but maybe you know, for example, that basement is actually partially finished. And that's not reflected anywhere in the information that's available to you, but it's important for you to know, particularly if you're going to show the property. So all you have to do is type in partially finished. This becomes a personal notepad for you, and the RPR becomes your file drawer. That information remains available to you forever. It is not available to your competitors. It is not available to anyone else who looks at the RPR. It's strictly for you.
That's good.
Now, you can also use that area, and I'll show you in a minute, but you can also use that area to make changes to the facts about a property. If it wasn't listed and you didn't have absolute certainty that that listing information was correct, you could actually make changes, apply the changes, and the estimated value will reflect your changes. But again, that change will only be for your personal use. And if we continue to scroll down the page, you'll start to see charts and graphs that are interactive that allow you to compare a property to a zip code, a neighborhood, even the state. And then you begin to see all of the information about the property that's collected from many, many sources. Things like open house information. If the house did have an open house in the MLS, we could pull in that information and display it to you. You can search by that. You can even search by open houses and do that optimized driving route on the map that we looked at earlier. Excuse me. We also display the interior and exterior features from the multiple listing service. We display the original deed information from the deed recording. If it is a foreclosed property, we actually have all of the notice of default information right there in the record, right by the property. So if that's an area that you want to work or information that you want to do further research on, you don't have to go to 47 different databases and pay subscriptions to all of these services because it's all right there in the RPR. Okay. So let's go to history. Jeff stole my thunder a little bit. I do love this chart. And I think I've never seen anything make such a clear statement on the state of the real estate market in California as this chart does. Because you see a perfect description of the term underwater. I'm not sure if Jeff mentioned that the gray area on the chart is actually the imputed loan balance. So you can see exactly where this house is relative to the amount of money that the owner owes. But it's wonderful because when we licensed the data from LPS, we were able to license 10 years of history. And it just so happened, lucky for us, that when we worked with MLS listings in California, they had 10 years of history also. So not only is this chart just incredibly telling on the marketplace, but it gives you 10 years of information about a property all the way back to 1999. And as we build RPR and we grow, that will grow as well. We'll never purge any information, and we'll have an ongoing, growing history of every property in the United States. One of the cool things that we'll be able to do, and this is one of the highest value propositions of the RPR there is that along with licensing data, aggregating data, collecting data from MLSs, we're going to be getting data from you. Nobody knows those houses like you do. You're the only one that walks into a house, looks at the basement and says, I think there was water damage. You make a note. It might be available just for you, but over time, we're going to figure out ways to take the data that you input and turn it back into better tools for you. There's a growth opportunity here that's just huge. This concept of the wisdom of realtor crowds is really the core of the RPR and where the value is going to be 5, 10 years from now. Not just in the data, but in the aggregation and compilation of the data that you provide. And no one else can do that. Now, if we continue to scroll down this page, you'll see an incredible amount of information. Much of it is used to create this chart. And it's historical assessment data, tax records, even historical listing information. So you really don't lose any data point as you're sitting down and preparing for a listing presentation. It's all right there. If we go to the next page, comps and estimated value. This is the coolest thing. This is really the heart and soul of the RPR. Because what we're doing with this whole database is we're trying to help you get a better starting point for working with buyers and sellers. So we use all of this data to calculate what's called a Realtor's Valuation Model, RVM. That's an AVM, like you all know, that Zillow and Realtor.com and Cyberhomes and HomeGain calculate. But unlike those models, our model will include real-time MLS information. So it will be much more accurate than anything that's available to the consumer through the web or to you from other sources. But you know what? It's nothing but a starting place. Because again, this is a computer model. It didn't walk in and see that water damage. It doesn't know that there's a landfill next door or it's in the flight path. Those are things that only you can know. So the whole purpose of the RPR is to give you all the information we can collect and present it to you in a way with tools that allow you to apply your local market knowledge and make that estimate better. That's what this page is all about. So when we get to the Refine the Value page, you have several different tools that allow you to start, again, at that better starting place, the RVM, and then apply your local market information in ways that help you recalculate the value of the property and store that information, again, just for your own personal use. Comparables is a great place to start. The system automatically selects 50 comparables, tells you which ones it likes, and then you can either select or deselect. You can get more information about the comparables right from a quick click right on this page. You can see where they are on the map. You can resort them. You can sort them by proximity. You can sort them by age. You can select, deselect again, as I said. And then as you make your changes, if you look at the bottom there, that 115,000 in red, as you make your selections of the comparables, it automatically tells you what that does to the value of the property. An incredible tool. And Ron's trying to get that price up. You must be representing the seller.
I'm representing the buyer in this case.
So as you make changes, then of course that $15,000 for this particular component gets applied to the total RVM value, and we're basically doing a running, real-time reassessment of the property's value.
It's probably important to note also that this does not, this does not change our database. This is purely for the practitioner at the time when they're trying to refine values and look up different, statistics about the property, but it's not going to change the database itself. It will be saved for you in your profile, but it won't change our database.
So, if you're showing a house or you're working with a buyer who's interested in that house today, and you make these changes today, they don't buy the house. 2 months later, you're showing that house to someone else, all of your changes will still be there to help you remember what you thought 2 months ago. If we scroll down the page, you'll see 2 other areas where you can apply your local market knowledge to help refine the value of a property. The first one is a remodel. Again, many times the assessment information doesn't reflect a recent remodel. So Ron's going to put in a kitchen remodel. Is that what you saw? For about $100,000. Big kitchen. It's a very nice kitchen.
This is California, remember?
Okay, so this is a tiny little